who the home cook is. We're going to take a look at what they do. And if you are the home cook, then over in the chat box, please be sure, first of all, to say hello to everyone, let them know that you're here, and then certainly identify yourself as the home cook. And I just want you to enjoy your time at the lunch table, enjoy the conversation, because we're going to have a good time today. Now, before we get too far into the show, let me remind you that this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, where we do things in the kitchen and we do things for the kitchen. And the fun part of that is that first of all, the major fun part is that I'm here with you and that we have a chance to just sit down and talk about the things that we do in the kitchen. And we also talk about how to take care of ourselves, because if mama's not happy, our daddy, whichever it may be in the kitchen, whomever that may be, if we're not happy, then nobody's going to be happy. So we must make sure that our health is good as well too. Now, if you are a subscriber already to the Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme channel, thank you so much. And if you're not, I'm hoping that you're going to stop, take a moment, go down underneath and hit the subscribe button, as well as click the little bell icon twice so that you'll be notified every time that I upload. And always check the community page because on my channel, because there's always something going on in the community. So we're going to take the time and we're going to identify that home cook. So I'm going to put my glasses on because we got a lot to talk about today. And if you are a home cook, then I'm hoping that you're going to identify yourself, stand tall, stand proud, and say, I am the home cook. And we're going to talk about what the characteristics of a home cook is. Because, we just think of mom in the kitchen or dad in the kitchen or whomever it may be, grandmother or aunt or whomever it is in the kitchen. But a true home cook has a certain look. And that's the reason why I thought of the picture of a portrait. When you paint a portrait, you want it to reflect everything about that person through the portrait. So we're going to take a look at the home cook. So today's home cook probably looks a little bit different from the home cook of the past. And in that, first of all, our kitchens are somewhat different. We have the same basic supplies as far as we have to have a stove. Stoves are definitely different thanks to technology. Home cooks are usually, they have a few more modern things that are in the kitchen, but there are some things, some characteristics that no matter if it was the past, if it's today, or if it's in the future, there are some characteristics that the home cook has. And that's what we're going to take a look at. So ask yourself, if you are the home cook, what are some of your characteristics? What are some of the things that when you look back, say, if it was your mom and your dad who was the chief person who did the cooking in your kitchen, then absolutely think about and share some of the characteristics that they exhibited, because I'm going to talk about a few and think, okay, yes, I do that. So let us know, have the conversation going as we're moving along. Now, the home cook is different from the home chef. Now, let me say that again. The home cook is different from the home chef. Now, some people are cooking in the kitchen and they are chefs, and other people are the home cooks. And both stand proudly in their positions, which is a great thing. And so, as we think about this, let's talk about what the home cook is all about. I'm a home cook. I'm a home cook. I am not a home chef. And when I hear the word chef, I think of Ina Gardner. I think of Rachel Ray. I think of Bobby Flay. I think of Big Daddy. I think of the Neelys. I think of oh goodness, I think of Gordon Ramsay. I think of those people because they are chefs. Emeril Lagasse, he's a chef. But would I consider him to be a home cook? Not so much. Not so much. And it's neat because, and I'll tell you, this particular person that I'm gonna, if you haven't watched Simply Ming at Home, the Simply Ming that you see at home is totally different from what you see of Simply Ming as the chef. And so he has distinguished, if you look at his shows where he was truly the chef versus, back during COVID when we just weren't leaving the house, he became the home cook. And there is a difference. And that's what made me think, there is a difference between the home cook and the home chef. Now, can you be both? Yes. But let's talk about that home cook because we want our family to think of the person who's in the kitchen as the home cook. And that's important. So the home cook tends not to be as efficient or perfect or professional as you would think of a chef. Now, that's not to say that they don't know how to sharpen a knife. That's not to say that they don't know how to measure, but it's just that the home cook has a little more, I'm going to say a little more finesse when they're cooking because they're doing it their way. They aren't doing it according to what the book so and so says that you should hold the knife this way, you should turn the spoon this way, you should mix the beater like this. And home cooks don't typically do that. Home cooks are working to get the job done. They want the job done. And that's what they're doing. So they're a little less perfect in the eye of a professional. But are they perfect for the family? Absolutely. So that's what we're also going to take a look at. Now, home cooks are a little more relaxed in their kitchen. Now, I say that and I giggle. I was watching, I don't know if you all are on Instagram, but I was watching Denise this weekend on Instagram. She and I are going to do what you call a raid on YouTube Saturday morning. Now, Saturday morning, I always do Saturday in the kitchen, which I'm going to do. But Denise is going to have her Saturday in the kitchen an hour before. And then she's going to raid my channel and come on over to my channel. And then we'll all be in there together, which is going to be a fun time. So from basically 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, we're going to be throwing down in the kitchen. So it's going to be a good time. But you know what? Denise was talking about the fact that she was very nervous because she was going to be on screen and on camera cooking. Now, so that says that Denise is a home cook. And even though she cooks every day, she has cooked every day for well over 45 years, as have both of us. But when you turn the camera on, it's like all of a sudden we start biting our nails, we forget where things are, and our voices start to tremble. And so those are the things that, as you think of that home cook and the home chef, are totally different. Now, also, when I think it was last week, I had the ultimate chicken cassoulet uh, that I showed you, and I was cutting the chicken. And normally I don't have a problem cutting up a chicken, but I once I turn that camera on, something that I can do quite well all the time, all of a sudden it just wasn't working. And I thought at first that I was going to stop the camera and start all over again. And I thought, well, why am I going to do that? Because home cooks have good days and we have bad days. We have days when everything goes smoothly. And then we have days when it's like we've lost our head and we can't think of what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And as we turn in the kitchen and we're looking and we're doing, it's like we lose focus. And so the home cook grabs the first thing they can find to get it done. So if they're measuring whatever it is, they can't find the measuring spoons at that moment, you grab a teaspoon and you get it done. And you estimate, or you put it in your palm and you estimate. If you're shaking out a teaspoon of pepper, you put it in your palm and sprinkle that pepper in. Home chefs are comfortable to do that. Now, let me tell you, when you think of those chefs that have been on television, I'm going to tell you the one who really comes to mind as a who really, I think, perfected the home chef image was Rachel Ray. Rachel Ray was not caught up in measuring spoons, measuring that, measuring this, using this. She used whatever she had and she was able to get the job done. She used her hand, she'd use her thumb. When you're measuring the water for rice and you want to make sure you have enough, you're going to stick your thumb in, touch the top of that rice. If you have about that inch, then voila, uh, you're in there, you got enough liquid in there for your rice. And so, as you think about that, we have been looking at home cooks. And when we think about to our mothers, or in some case, our fathers were the cooks in the kitchen. And a home cook is not about being mom or dad or being male or female. There are home cooks of both. And you know what? I love seeing a man in that apron. I don't know about you all, but I like that. I like seeing a man in that kitchen and working it in that kitchen. And when they're happy, it's like they get lost in their kitchen. Well, you know what? We do the same thing. When we get in the kitchen, I know my husband has made a comment and he says, when you get in the kitchen and you're really into what you're doing, and he said, you start to hum, you get a little hum going, or you get a song going, or you start to kind of do a couple of things, along the way. And he says, you're just happy as a little lark and you forget about anything and everything that's around. That's a home cook. And once I put the apron on, it's like my super cape that I have put on, and I can do anything in my kitchen because the apron is gives me my superpowers in the kitchen to try out anything I want to. And so the home cook is learns to be comfortable. Now, here's a question for you. Do we start out being comfortable home cooks? How many of you did? Let me know. Where did you start out? Say if you've been married 25 years, say back at year 20, 21, 22. Were you comfortable in the kitchen? I'm thinking back to my first year of cooking. And I'm telling you guys, I have to tell you, I struggled every day. Not because I didn't have enough recipes, but number one, I had a crazy schedule. I was going to school, I was I was working every day. As you know, I was teaching every day. I was going to college after work. I was coming home to a new baby. And I also had to fix dinner at like 10 o'clock at night so that the big guy could and the baby could do whatever they needed to do when they came home while I was still at school. Well, to be honest with you, when I got in the kitchen, I was already tired, and all I could think of was, I need to get this finished. And I was tired. I had to read. I had things to do. I had laundry building up. You have all these things. And so as we think about our new homemakers, our new home cooks, we want to be able to share with them our skills. And we want to be able to, because some of the things I had to learn the hard way, because while I had watched mom at a distance, I really didn't have to cook. And so, because of that, and she never really stopped to say, okay, you need to hold your knife like this and do, and cut like this. All right, this is how you make cornbread. You you do this first, you do that next. She didn't do that. She just went in the kitchen, did what she needed to do. I watched from afar and just kind of kept up with what she was doing, but she never cooked with a recipe. So, and never wrote anything down. It was like, oh, it just came out of her head, but it always turned out good. Now, that's a home cook. A home cook can go in there and they can just whip up that recipe and voila, there it is. I have a friend who had never prepared uh, tuna salad, had never prepared tuna salad. And she had been married maybe 3 or 4 years. And she was probably about 25, 26. Well, I was fixing tuna salad for lunch and I said, you want some tuna salad? And she said, I haven't had tuna salad in years. And I said, well, why not? That's the cheapest lunch you can get. And she said, I don't know how to fix it. Well, I just about dropped, if my teeth could have come out at that point, I would have dropped my teeth right there on the table because I couldn't believe anybody didn't know how to fix tuna salad. I said, okay, well, come over here and watch me do it. So we did it right there. And it was so funny because she says, now, how much of that are you using? And how much of this are you using? And I can recall doing the same thing, asking, okay, how much of that did you have? And so now she can do it, of course. But at that point she really couldn't. So when I think back to those young ladies and young men who are at that point in life where they need to go in the kitchen, but they've got jobs and other things that are going on that interfere with their time, I still think we as friends, mothers, aunts, uncles, we need to share. Put it down on paper somewhere. And for a while, I would write down recipes for my daughter and son. And we have a family Bible, big, huge family Bible that we keep in the living room. And I would stick it in the family Bible. And I still do occasionally because I'm thinking they need to have those recipes one of these days. When I am gone, they're going to open that Bible and go, oh my goodness, mom was thinking of us. Or it could be the grandkids who are going to be thinking of us. So we put things on paper. Now, our home cook, our home cook knows the importance of presenting a dish in a certain way because we first eat with our eyes If what we're about to serve doesn't look appetizing, guess what? The four, five, six little people who are around that table, and the younger they get, the more persnickety they get. They're not going to eat it because it looks funny. And I was that kid. So we want to make home cooks try to make sure that what they're serving is appetizing to look at. Now, so a good home cook has to have the qualities of love in their kitchen because they not only love what they're doing, but they also love the people that they're serving. And they want those people to be happy, to be happy. That's it. They want their family to be happy. When the family, when everybody sits down to the table, the blessing is said, the first bite is taken, and all conversation ends. It's like all the noise, all the chaos, all that kind of stuff stops. And all you can hear is the sound of the fork or the spoon. That's it. That's all you can hear. That's when you know you have an absolutely delicious dish. It could be beanie weenies, but if everybody likes it, woohoo! The home cook has done their job. Oh, goodness. Hold on a second. Patience, God bless you. I'm a teacher, she said too, and she's watching during lunch. She said today is her second wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary to you! Yay! And many, many more, many more. Oh my goodness. I'm thinking back to those early days. Wow, it was wild. And she said, yes, you're still learning how to balance it all, Patience, you know. Oh, it is amazing. It is amazing, you know. But back in the day, we didn't have YouTube. And, you know, I think back and I pulled out one of my books that I'm sure almost all of you have had. You just look at the color. Of course, it used to be red and white, and now it's pink and white, celebrating breast cancer. And this one was a limited edition at the time that I got it. But this is the Better Homes and Garden Cookbook. That was the best thing. It was one of the wedding gifts. It was one of the best things I ever got as a newbie in marriage, because I could go to this book, and mine is wore out. This is a second one because the first one I can't even hold up like this. That's how bad it is. It became like a workbook. I've got post-it notes in there, scotch tape in there, crumbs are in it, sticky portions are in it because I used it to cook with. And when I developed my grocery list, I had my book there, and I called it my kitchen Bible for a while because I needed a good cookbook. Well, I love the Better Homes and Garden cookbook. I definitely love that. But I have advanced to the American's Test Kitchen cookbook, and it is amazing. It has everything a new person in the kitchen would absolutely want to have. And so, if that's something that you need, is a good cookbook, the American's Test Kitchen is the one. It even tops Better Homes and Garden. Now, I'm going to share with you. Let's see if, whoops, that's not. There we go. Now, so here are some things about who's the home cook. And we assume automatically that mom's going to be the home cook in most households. And I'd say probably most households, mother is the home cook. But you know, sometimes mom and dad share that position. So it depends on whose day it is or whose week it is, who's doing the cooking. Now, So a home cook is going to prepare meals often and mostly in the house. So even though you may be sharing that position, maybe dad cooks Saturday and Sunday, and mom cooks Monday through Friday, and you're sharing that spot. But the person who makes sure that the breakfast is all together, that the lunches are made, and that the cooking is done, we can give them the title as the home cook. Remember, the home cooks are not perfect. They're not professional. They just know what they know and they can put it together. Or they have completed a recipe often enough that they have notes all over their recipe. When you go through their look at their cookbooks, they have written in them, they have added to it, they changed the amounts, they've done all of that based on their family's taste. Home cooks are always willing to try new recipes. I used to love when we would have a potluck at work. Oh my goodness! As a young mom, I was always looking for what was going to be my next new dish that I was going to try. And as luck would have it, my aide that worked in the class with me had been married 30 years at that point. She was a godsend because any questions, anything I was puzzled about, anything I wasn't sure about, anything that I just needed at that point, I could ask her very quickly, or we'd have that conversation. I'd say, I'd really like to fix a chicken pot pie. And she could just stand there and say, okay, you need this, such as this. And she could just rattle it off because she had done it enough. And I'm sitting there writing notes like a secretary because she had done it. And so, you know, as home cooks, we're always looking for the new recipe, something that's new. We're always willing to listen to those who are going to give us tips in the kitchen. And we also develop our own measurement system. You know, I love measuring spoons. Heaven only knows. I think I have 3 sets of measuring spoons. Each set is different. It has some little extra something that not that it's not measuring tablespoons, teaspoons, all those good things. But one is magnetic, one is stainless steel, one is just a plastic, whatever it is. But we eventually develop our own measurement system. And that's when you can spot a home cook quick because they don't stop to measure. For instance, when we were talking about the tuna salad, a new person in the kitchen is going to need to know if you have X number, say for instance, my average is 1 boiled egg per can of tuna, especially the smaller size can of tuna. And so I have developed my own formula. So I know I'm going to need 1 egg. I'm going to need about a quarter of an onion if I'm making a small batch. But most of the time, I always do a larger batch so that I have some for another day. And so I can look at the texture and tell whether or not it's going to be moist enough when I get the salad dressing or the mayo in. I know after that first spoonful about how much is going to need to be added into it. If you were watching Saturday in the kitchen and we were working with the cheddar biscuits, we were kind of playing around. The recipe called for 2 cups of shredded cheddar. But as soon as we put those 2 cups in, I knew it wasn't enough. And so I needed to go in and pull out some more and get it in there because you could look at the makeup, look at the mixture, and see what that composition was. Also, with adding your buttermilk, You could look at the texture. Each batch of flour is going to be different. I didn't know that early on, that all flour wasn't created equal. Some flours tend to be a little more dry, and the longer it you have it, the drier the flour is going to be. So those are things that home cooks learn. And so they have to develop their own system, their own way of measuring in order to be able to adapt for those changes, whether it's a change in some of you who live in a higher altitude, you know there are certain changes as far as the amount of, say, water or moisture that you need in your cakes or in your bread or whatever it is that you're preparing. You know you've got to make those changes along the way. So a home cook, I'm going to give you some more. A home cook can make something out of nothing. They can make something out of nothing. A home cook can come in and look in the refrigerator and say it's day 4 of the week. So they cooked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, when Friday comes and it's time for dinner, well, rather than cooking something from scratch, they take all of their leftovers and whip up something totally new. That's a home cook. A home cook can do that. And it's good. And you're looking at it going, why didn't I think of that? And a home cook can do that. But it takes practice. Now, home cooks respect food. They respect where it comes from. They expect how it's traditionally used. They respect how that food got to them. And they also consider how best to prepare it. So I was talking to a friend this weekend, and we were talking about chicken. And we were talking about whole chickens. And she mentioned the fact that she had not cut up a whole chicken in heaven knows how many years, because we've gotten spoiled. We've gotten spoiled to being able to go to the grocery and we can pick up a family size pack of chicken legs, a pack of thighs, a pack of breast, or a pack of breast with no bone, or even chicken thighs with no bones. Or we can pick up chicken wings that are all still together. Hello, hello. Or we can pick up wings that have been separated and they're ready for us to fry for some hot wings. We've gotten spoiled. We haven't had to really, it's about convenience, having those kinds of things. But sometimes convenience makes it difficult when we're going through what we're going through now. You know, when we're starting to see, I won't say that I can say at this point, I'm not feeling as nervous about food as I was. Now, I say that carefully. I say it carefully because when I go to the grocery store, everything I need is there. But hold up. When you look at how half of our country looks like on the nightly news, like it's on fire because it's so hot. And we know that that's the area of the country where certain types of food are grown and they have very little water to water them. Then we know that coming down the line that there's going to be shortages of those particular food. Our grains are out there with no water. Some of the corn is out there with no water. Lots of vegetables are out there without water, and they're suffering from extreme heat. So, as we think about that, while I'm careful to say today, I feel okay, but I know I have to stay cautious. I have to stay on guard. And the home cook knows that that's what they've got to do. This is no time to play. I can't let my guard down because we already know that there are concerns. Now, in addition to the heat and the dryness that's going out from Midwest West, come back to the other side of that line of Midwest East, and we have so much water that we're flooding and all kinds of things are happening. So guess what's happening to the crops that are on the eastern side of the United States? I went out there this morning to look at my rose, couple of my rose bushes, and they had been so pretty and they were blooming, and I just love them. But you know what? I walked out there and we have had so much rain that it was standing in inches of water. I had, it's a huge pot. I had to push and push and push to lean it over to drain the water out because roses don't like to be extremely wet. And so, in order not to kill the rose with all the moisture, or for it to end up with some kind of blight because of the moisture, I had to push it over. Now, if that's happening here at home, then we have to think about the fact that that's also happening out in our farmland. Our farmers are trying to figure out how to adapt, how to get those crops in before a really bad rain comes through. And I thank God every day. We have been blessed in that we have not had any uh, hurricanes to come through at this point on the East Coast. Have we had a lot of rain? Absolutely. But no hurricanes. And that's a blessing. So I know Khadijah's out there, and Khadijah, I think you're in California. Correct me if I'm wrong. And how's your garden growing? Because I know California is one of those places that's very, very, very hot. And it was hot back in June when I was there. And so I can just imagine what you guys are going through now. I mean, they're looking at 100 degrees and more. And that has just been the pattern over and over and over again. And if you're blessed enough and you're not necessarily in the area where some of the fires are starting, you're still suffering through the heat. And so, as home cooks, we've got to think about that. So, the home cook thinks about today, but we also have to think about tomorrow and the next day and 6 months down the road. And that's why it's important that we are always on guard. Now, a home cook has a desire to nourish the family. And that part is just really important. We need to make sure that our families are as healthy as they can be. We want to make sure, if we can, to be able to serve some type of protein, whether it's plant based or whether it's animal based. We want to make sure that we have green vegetables if possible. It used to be I always tried to have two vegetables, at least two vegetables and a protein. And when times were lean, we'd have the protein and a vegetable, and we may have a piece of fruit. So those are the types of things that we might have to adjust. Um, Years ago, I told you, years ago, I couldn't have made a biscuit if you paid me. And I can remember I started trying to make biscuits back at year 3 or 4 of the marriage. And they were so good that the dog wouldn't even eat them. That's how good they were. They weren't even good enough for him. And he would eat just about anything that was on our table. And the big guy, being, the new husband, and he saw the work I had gone through. So, and he saw me looking at him, waiting to see his response with the biscuits. And when he took that first bite, well, he attempted to take the first bite because it was hard as a brick. And, we laugh about it now, but oh my goodness, it was absolutely wild. And so I say to you, and for those of you who are trying new things, try, practice. You know, all it is, if you make a mistake the first time, you try to work out whatever it is, and you'll do it better the next time. And so we just keep trying. We keep trying along the way. So I am always excited. I had a subscriber who sent me an email the other day, and I was just it just melted my heart because my subscriber had made the apple pie that we did the other day. And I know this subscriber has no idea. That day when that email came, I'm telling you, divine things happen, and they happen for a reason. I was having one of those days that was just, how sometimes thoughts get in your head and you start to think, well, is this really of value? Is this really helpful? Even though I know in my heart, yes, it is. But sometimes it just doesn't seem like everything's fitting together exactly the way I want it. And that particular day, I was kind of down in the dumps. And I opened up my computer, went to my email, and okay, went to my email and saw this email. And it brought tears to my eyes because I know there's somebody out there who's trying, who's taking what we're doing, and they're taking it to their family. And that made me feel so good to know that. And just so you guys know that, appreciate, I appreciate when you're able to share that with me because it keeps us going. We're trying to inspire you to step out and to do something new that you haven't done. But at the same time, we need a little inspiration as home cooks. Now, let's think about that. Let me get myself back together. As home cooks, remember this. If you're the home cook, and or maybe you're not, if your husband's the home cook and he has worked an hour and a half to get dinner ready for the table, never leave the table without saying, "Thank you, honey. This was a great meal. Thank you, honey. This is a great meal. Thank you, Dad. This is a great meal." And teach your children to do that because even as little ones, it's amazing. When my grands are here, they're so funny because it's like, "Thank you, Mimi. This was like they never had it before. Thank you, Mimi. This is so good. This is so good." And it's funny. I giggle, but when you're a home cook, it's all about the heart. And that's something we have to remember. The home cook cooks from the heart. And so they need inspiration as well. Now, the home cook is fearless. And you're thinking, what? Yes, the home cook is fearless. Okay, you bought a rump roast. And maybe you've never prepared a rump roast. But today is the day you're going to prepare that rump roast. And you've got your cookbook or your recipe, and you are ready to go. You are fearless. You're going to get in your apron, and you're going to get that job done because you are the home cook. and you're going to do it to the best of your abilities. That's what the home cook does. And you want your family, when you serve it to your family, you serve it proudly because you know the work that has gone into it, and the love that has gone into what you're preparing. Now, let me take the home cook knows their limits. I have a friend, and I don't know if she's on today. She might be out there, but she's so cute. I love it. And she's funny in that she had tried a new recipe last week, and I think when my hubby and I just kind of dropped by, we needed to do something, and we dropped by, and of course she was expecting him, but she wasn't expecting me. And so I think when I came into the kitchen, it was almost as if she had panicked. I saw it. I saw it in her face. Oh my goodness, I'm trying a new recipe. My friend is here, and she cooks all the time, and I might do something wrong. Well, let me say to you, I learned from you as you learn from me. We're all learning together. We're family. And that's really what it's all about. The home cook recognizes that it's family, and that family's going to sit down. We're going to sit down. We're going to have dinner. We're going to have conversation. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you shook the salt in a certain way, or if you put just a tad bit too much pepper in. It doesn't matter because it's dinner, and it's food, and it's sustenance, and we're going to do it together. And that's what it's all about. Now, but the home cook knows their limits. It was funny. I was saying to her, I said, she said, oh, those cheddar biscuits look so good. And I said, okay, well, let's do it together. And it was like there was silence of, uh, I think I'm going to try those biscuits at my house first before I try them at your house together. And it was so funny because I'm thinking, we can do this together. But, I probably would have done the same thing being a newbie because we're trying things, but we kind of want to dibble and dabble first. And then if we have a concern, then we can bring that to the table. So your failures, as a home cook, you get to the point of, hey guys, I made these and they look good. I'm not sure what they taste like. So we're just going to try them together. And I know I use the big guy as my feeler. Well, honey, what do you think should be added to this? And at first he wouldn't say anything. Well, you can understand why. But at first he wouldn't say anything. He would just kind of go, oh, honey, it's just fine. It's just fine. And I'm looking at him going, okay, no, it's not. What is it missing? So I would start saying, really think it needs a little more salt. Or I should have put a little, maybe just a pinch of sugar in there. What do you think? And then he'll say, yes, a little pinch of sugar probably would have been good. And so the home cook is able to recognize when something is not quite perfect and that they need a little input. That's a good thing. Now, the home cook also looks at their kitchen as the big science lab. This is where we experiment. If you've never made a pound cake and you're willing to get floury and sugary and all those good things going, then this is our lab. And it's like, nobody talk to me. Nobody, don't talk to me. I'm focused. I'm going to put this cake together today. And it's our experimental lab. And so there's some days that you can come into the kitchen with the home cook, but there are other days when you just want to be careful. You just want to be careful. You don't want anybody in here because you're afraid you're going to leave something out. Let me tell you guys, let me tell you, one of my big failures was we were going to a Super Bowl party, and I'm going to admit, okay, I'm stepping out. Honesty. This was probably about 5 years ago. We were going to because it was way before COVID. We went to the Super Bowl party, and we was the main part of the food was already prepared, but they had asked all of us to everybody bring a dessert. And so I thought, okay, with everybody walking around, cookies, homemade cookies would be the best thing, because I knew there were going to be a lot of people just going to pick up something from the grocery and bring it in. Homemade cookies. I make oatmeal raisin cookies all the time. Well, that day I came home from church. I whipped up the batch of oatmeal cookies. They were perfect. I made sure they were perfect on that pan, and they looked so pretty. I put them on a gorgeous dish so that they would know these were home cooked. Yes, I did that. And the first bite into those oatmeal raisin cookies just about took me out. You know why? I had put too much baking soda, too much baking powder in the recipe. I guess I read it wrong. I was doubling and tripling it. I got it wrong. And that's all you could taste was the baking powder and the baking soda when you bit into that cookie. They looked perfect. They were so pretty. And I was so proud of them, but they stunk. And my husband was in another room, and evidently he had grabbed a cookie and he started to bite, and he came running in and he said, "Leona, come here real quick." And he said, "Go pull your plate of cookies." I looked at him, I said, "What?" He said, "Go get your cookies. Have you tasted them?" I said, "No, we didn't have time." And so he said, "Taste one." Well, when I stood there and bit into that cookie, I was devastated. Devastated. So I learned two things. Number one, make sure you get your math right. And number two, taste it before it leaves the house, because they were to be as pretty as they were and have the perfect shape, everything, and to be as nasty as they were. It was just, I was, I was so upset. I was so upset. And it was so funny because then everybody knew I had made the homemade cookies. And then all of a sudden they're looking for the homemade cookies. And the hostess said, "Who put Leona's homemade cookies in the trash?" I said, "I did." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because they don't taste good. There's something wrong." I knew exactly what it was, but I wasn't going into the details standing there in the middle of the kitchen with a whole bunch of people. And so I said, I obviously put some too much of something in the recipe. And it while they looked pretty, they didn't taste good. And so we went with that. And she just giggled and she said, "All right." And but sometimes that happens. So we just have to be careful. Now, the home cook is also at peace with just eating food. It can be hot dogs, and we're okay with that. It can be a hamburger. We're okay with that. It doesn't have to be a T-bone steak for us to be happy. And we have to learn to be at peace with whatever it is that we're preparing. So, my mom was the perfect home cook when it came to serving large groups, and she was good at serving and having people come home from church at the last minute. And it was amazing how far she could make a chicken stretch. That was, I don't know how she did. I thought it was magic. It was nothing for us to end up with 10 people sitting at the table. Now, we had a family of three, and we'd end up with 10 people at the table, one chicken. Everybody had plenty of food, and they were stuffed. They were talking about unfastening their belt. That's how full they were. And you just think a home cook is like a magician in their kitchen. They can make that food stretch and go as far as necessary. When you're preparing greens or you're preparing macaroni and cheese, you might throw in some mashed potatoes or some rice. You might even add some green beans because she always had green beans on the shelf, peas on the shelf. Those are things you always have. Those are things that you can use to spread the meal and make it larger. It really wasn't so much about the portion of protein. Now, we went to a restaurant. We went to, actually, it was the first time we had been to a buffet in, oh, 3 or 4 years. And we went to this particular place we liked because they have crab legs. But what struck me, and nobody noticed this but me, I was sharing with the friend that we went with. I said, I was looking at, Denise and I had been talking about how to take one chicken and make it into 3 to 4 meals and still have enough for everyone to have plenty at the table, plenty of protein, plenty of everything. And I was looking at this particular recipe, this particular restaurant, and how they cut their fried chicken. I went over to the section where the fried chicken was. I don't know what led me there, but because I was going for the crab legs. But I had to wait a few minutes because they hadn't brought out fresh crab legs. So I'm standing there looking at the fried chicken. So as I'm looking at the fried chicken, these are the things I noticed. They had, of course, split the breast. They then cut the breast, each breast half, into half, each one into half. Okay, that's 4 pieces. They then took a chicken leg. Now, they separated the leg and the thigh, but then they cut the leg in half, cut the thigh in half across the bone. So that means you really have to have a good cleaver. But they cut that thigh in half. And you know what? I picked up, just as luck would have it, I like thigh meat. I picked up the thigh and I thought, And it wasn't until I got back to the table and started to take it apart that I realized it had been cut in half. So they made 2 pieces of chicken out of the one thigh, 2 pieces of chicken out of the leg portion. So that was another 4 pieces. So when you have a large family, it's about being able to stretch what you have. And so I'm thinking, oh, it never dawned on me that that's what was going on. Because now with mom, when she cut the breast, she did cut it. She cut each half, and cut the half into half, but she did it the long way. So it almost looked more like a breast tender. So she got 2 tenders here, 2 tenders there. A home cook is able to do that. Now, a home cook, in addition to knowing how to cut things, how to make sure that everybody has plenty, a home cook tastes as they go. Now, we're getting close to the end of our hour, and we're gonna talk a little more about the home cook, but we have been talking about learning new things and certainly being brave enough to step out and to try new things. So we're going to talk about some of the skills that the home cook has that when we watch someone else, we just kind of take it for granted. But we're going to start to look at some of the techniques. Now for me, I learned that there were some skills I needed to improve. And so I'm practicing in the background, trying to make sure that once I share it with you, that it looks better, like cutting that chicken. But we want to make sure that the things that we're doing, um, that they are pleasing to the eye, and that they taste good once they get to the table. And to all of you who are here, who either are the home cooks or you're the person who's give you're cheering on the home cook, because home cooks need a little cheering. We all have our job to do, and we want to make those jobs as easy as possible. And for those of you here who are here, I'm looking at I'm going to share a few things. I got Ronnie who's here. She says she's still trying to have the flakes in the biscuit recipe that she made. She said, but her family still enjoys them. Absolutely, absolutely. It took a while to get those layers, and it does, but we just keep working at it. And eventually one day it's like, oh, it happens. And also sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's the flour. Sometimes it's the flour. It has apps, and I'm telling you, I've made them enough now successfully that I know if I change flour, there's going to be a little bit of a difference. Flavor might be basically the same, but the texture may be just a little different from one flour to the next. So don't think that if your biscuits aren't as perfectly flaky as someone else's, that it's you. It's not, because sometimes it's just the flour. Sometimes it's the age of the flour, and of course, those things we don't have anything to do with. We can't control that. And I am thankful that each of you are here. And for those of you who are new, and this is the first time that you've sat down to the lunch table, certainly take the time if you can. I know some of you, because you're at work, you're not able to necessarily come into the conversation and you're listening. All right, if you're a part of the replay, yay, let me know and give me some suggestions on how that home cook looks to you. Talk about that, think about that. And as you do, shoot me a note in the comments. Let me know what you think about. What do you remember as you think back to watching whomever was your home cook when you were younger? What were some of their characteristics? And you're going to notice that some of their characteristics you've brought with you. And that's a good thing, because that means that they taught us something, we're using it, and then we're learning new things and adding to it. And certainly we're all growing, and that's what we want to do. Now, I want you to have an absolutely beautiful week. I want you to be blessed and to certainly continue in your kitchen and love on your family. So I'll see you soon right here. And don't forget about Saturday. It's going to be special. Remember, 9 o'clock at Denise Jordan, and then come on over to my kitchen at 10 o'clock, because there's going to be a lot of cooking going on, and we're going to have a ball. So come to the party, because it's going to be a good time. I'll see you soon. Mwah! Blessings to all of you.